I was in a spot where a lot of people were telling me not to do television.
It was like a grenade tossed into a clockwork. Walking onto the taxi set that week felt less like the calm precision of a television machine and more like the aftermath of a wild explosion. Cameras stood idle, scripts lay untouched, and the entire production schedule, meticulously choreographed down to the minute, had been vaporized before a single line could be rehearsed. All of it because one man dared to push the boundaries of comedy and insist he remain in character at any cost. Danny Devito later said he had never seen anything like it, a stunt so audacious it threatened to blow the show apart. The week began innocently enough in the Paramount commissary, over egg salad sandwiches and coffee refills. Devito was riffing with Marilu Henner and Judd Hirsch when executive producer Ed Weinberger slid into the booth with what he described as a brilliant twist for their upcoming episode Brother Rat. Danny's on-screen brother would be making his debut, played by the incomparable Andy Kaufman. Only Kaufman wouldn't play himself. He would arrive as Tony Clifton, Kaufman's abrasive alter ego, and under no circumstances could anyone acknowledge the ruse. No winks, no nods, and absolutely no breaking of the character, even offset. It sounded like a riotous bit that would generate buzz and prestige, but it also ignored a crucial reality. Network television runs on predictability and absolute cooperation. Monday morning's table read was supposed to set the week in motion, but it turned into a circus of silence. The cast and crew assembled at 10, scripts in hand, ready to dissect jokes, rehearse lines, and block scenes. 12 pages were laid out neatly on the table, every joke circled, every beat marked, except for the one chair reserved for Clifton. 5 minutes passed. 10, 20, 40. Under the Clifton must remain real rule, no one could break character by calling Andy Kaufman and asking, "Where are you?" The silence in that rehearsal room became a physical weight. Time slipped away inexorably, and with it, the foundation of the week's schedule. For a show that depended on a strict 5-day turnaround, losing even 1 hour felt like amputating its backbone. When Clifton finally did arrive, 2 hours late, he made sure the moment lived up to every bit of anticipation. The door swung open, and in swaggered a man dressed to the nines in an ostentatious suit, drenched in cologne so potent that it clung to the air like a fog. On each arm he bore a companion in sequined dresses, laughter ringing in their ears. He tossed his heftily annotated script onto the table, shooting a glare at anyone who dared to look. Instead of slipping into the scene, he turned the table read into a showdown. He objected to lines, demanded on-the-spot rewrites, and treated the cast as though they were lucky to witness his brilliance. Every attempt to move forward dissolved into argument. Every gag became a barbed exchange. By Tuesday morning, the producers were scrambling to salvage what remained of the week. The cost of those lost hours was already mounting: overtime bills, frustrated crew calls, security alerts about unauthorized escorts wandering the lot. In hushed conversations behind closed doors, they devised a contingency plan. Call in Richie Ferengi, a reliable character actor, to stand in as Danny's brother if Clifton refused to cooperate. No fanfare, no announcements. Ferengi was slipped into the casting envelope like a hidden ace in a magician's sleeve, a silent promise that the show would go on even if Clifton refused to budge. No one dared let Kaufman in on the secret. The ruse had to remain airtight. That night, Ed Weinberger made a delicate phone call to Andy Kaufman. He reminded Kaufman that when it came time to cut Clifton loose, the official excuse should be chronic lateness, never a lack of talent. Kaufman agreed, apparently eager to protect the myth of Clifton's genius even as the character trampled the set. But when the fateful moment arrived, Clifton dug in his heels. He argued, postured, threatened legal action, and refused to leave gracefully. A routine firing turned into another act of defiance, a drawn-out spectacle that held the room hostage. Producers watched in disbelief as their plan for a polite severance dissolved into threats and theatrics. By midweek, the rehearsal bleachers were no longer empty rows of folding chairs. They had become the front row of a courtroom drama. Barry Diller, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and high-ranking executives from ABC and Paramount crammed together, not to enjoy a sitcom rehearsal, but to determine the show's fate. From their elevated seats, they watched Clifton strut across the stage like a Las Vegas headliner, cologne clouds trailing behind him. Every minute of bickering, every stalled page turn, translated directly into dollars lost and goodwill evaporated. The suits in the bleachers weren't there to laugh. They were tallying the cost of this chaos and quietly deciding how much more risk they were willing to shoulder. Behind the stage door, an even larger audience had gathered. Reporters from the Los Angeles Times and trade publications, cameras poised and ready. In a move that caught the cast completely off guard, Kaufman had tipped them off, ensuring that Clifton's dramatic exit would become front-page news. When security finally escorted Clifton off the lot, flashbulbs popped. Instead of a character actor bowing out, the world saw a star being unceremoniously fired amid scandal and screams of conspiracy. Photos of Clifton in sunglasses and a bad suit being led away circulated instantly, overshadowing any mention of compelling storylines or ensemble chemistry. Inside the studio, morale hit rock bottom. The cast and crew who had poured heart and soul into Taxi now watched years of hard-won trust evaporate in a single week. Advertisers and affiliates cared little for Andy Kaufman's lofty performance art. Their concern was simple. Will Thursday night's episode be on time? Will the next season be delivered on budget? The idea that a single guest performance could halt production, erode budgets, and galvanize the press into a feeding frenzy turned every renewal meeting into a cautious negotiation rather than a celebration of creativity and ratings. To the public, cancellations often look like straightforward business decisions, falling ratings, shifting demographics, a show running out of steam. But the real calculus behind the scenes is far more nuanced. Every hour lost in rehearsal becomes a line item in an expense report, every threat of legal action a negotiation headache, every bad headline a risk to advertiser confidence. After the Clifton fiasco, Taxi became Exhibit A in how quickly a hit series can morph into a liability. No amount of Emmy statuettes or critical praise could outweigh the executive's fear that another week like Stage 23's debacle might be just around the corner. Taxi did limp on through 2 more seasons, but the ghost of that chaotic week haunted every room where contracts were signed. Network executives no longer talked only about Nielsen points. They rattled off cautionary tales of escorts wandering the lot and reporters camped at the gate. Renewal pitches came bundled with unspoken caveats. We'll continue delivering laughs, but only if we can guarantee no more Tony Clifton ambushes. In 1983, when ABC decided not to renew the show, they scarcely needed a formal explanation. Everyone remembered Stage 23, April 1981, and the price of creative anarchy. Yet, as years passed, the story of Tony Clifton's hijacking of Taxi transcended its immediate consequences. To Andy Kaufman's admirers, the stunt became a legendary performance piece, proof that television could be bent until it cracked, that reality and fiction could collide in the most explosive ways. For comedy historians and Hollywood lore enthusiasts, Stage 23 turned into a cautionary tale about the tension between artistic freedom and corporate machinery. The very stunt that threatened to sink a beloved sitcom also cemented Kaufman's reputation as a fearless, unpredictable visionary. Danny Devito distills it all into a single truth: trust is the real currency of television. Scripts can be rewritten, jokes can be retested, schedules can be reshuffled. But once trust evaporates between cast and crew, between producers and studio, it is almost impossible to rebuild. Every unpredictable stunt, every off-script moment chips away at that fragile foundation. No matter how groundbreaking the performance, networks live and die on the promise that their shows will arrive on time, on budget, and without dramatics that derail production. In the end, Taxi's cancellation was never merely about viewership charts or creative differences. It was the inevitable aftermath of a week so wildly out of control that it redefined the industry's risk threshold. Danny DeVito's revelation does more than reframe a legendary sitcom's demise. It shines a spotlight on the delicate balance that powers every television production. For a medium built on precision timing and rigid schedules, even the smallest act of chaos can explode into a crisis, and once that fuse is lit, the fallout can last for seasons, if not decades.